Okay, so hey guys, my name's Avarti and welcome back to another Elder Scrolls lore video. In this video we're going to be talking about exactly who or what the mystical Grey Fox is and what the Grey Fox is up to in the time of Skyrim. To begin with, the Grey Fox was the figurehead of the Thieves Guild for some 300 years before his presumed disappearance. However, it's imperative to understand the Grey Fox is not a person, but rather a title that someone can assume. In times past, the title of Grey Fox was passed from leader to successor within the Thieves Guild by giving the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal to the successor. Since the successor then becomes the Grey Fox, many thought that he had been alive for over 300 years in the time of Oblivion. However, this would all change after the completion of the Thieves Guild questline in the Elder Scrolls 4. But before we get into who or what the Grey Fox is now, it's pivotal to understand what exactly the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal is and why it was so important to the Thieves Guild for so many years. The Grey Cowl of Nocturnal was stolen from the Daedric prince Nocturnal by a thief named Emma Deraloth, the first Grand Master of the Thieves Guild. Because Nocturnal is revered as the Mistress of Shadow, the artifact is attributed with immense stealth and secrecy which it passes on to the user. After the theft, Nocturnal cursed the cowl so that whomever wore it would be erased from history. All who knew that person would subsequently forget who they were. This caused Count Corvus Umbronox, otherwise known as the Grey Fox to the Thieves Guild, to lose his royal ties when he came into possession of the cowl. His wife Melona's memory of him fogged, and she suspected him of having run away, forsaking his marriage vows. And it should be noted this Count Corvus Umbronox is indeed the Grey Fox in the time of Oblivion. And through his actions in this time period, a series of events would be instigated, leading to Nocturnal's Curse of the Cowl being unravelled, which would change the nature of the Thieves Guild forever. In the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, the player has the option to join the Thieves Guild, which is of course at that time led by the mysterious Grey Fox, who many at that time believed to be a myth, including most of the Imperial Legion. However, upon joining the guild and working your way up the ranks, the player eventually encounters this mysterious figure in the flesh. The Fox then enlists the player's help in stealing several items, ultimately to enable the theft of an Elder Scroll. And using this Elder Scroll, the Grey Fox was able to rewrite history, thus disbanding Nocturnal's curse. This would allow the wearer of the cowl to interact with other people as him or herself and not as the Grey Fox, and thus take a more active role in the guild's interactions overall, while still retaining the artifact's immense stealth capabilities. After the curse had been obliterated, Corvus returned to his wife and his former position as Count of Anvil and passed the cowl onto the Champion of Cyrodiil, that is to say, the player. However, the player, it is largely assumed, did not pass on the Cowl of Nocturnal, so the line of Grey Foxes ended with him, as fundamentally it is assumed the Grey Fox is still the player from Oblivion in the time of Skyrim, as he still has the cowl in his possession. But how could this be true? Surely the player would be dead of old age, or by other means in the time of Skyrim, which takes place some 200 years later after the Oblivion Crisis. Fundamentally, what it comes down to is the simple idea that the player from Oblivion is no longer a person, rather a god. The protagonist from Oblivion mantled the title of the Mad God and Daedric Prince Sheogorath, who is the same Sheogorath we see in Skyrim, and as Sheogorath is a Daedric Prince, he is obviously immortal. And by mantling, what we mean is that the player acted in Sheogorath's place so effectively during the Grey March of the Shivering Isles, as Sheogorath became Jiggalag in Oblivion and left his space empty, so to say, the player actually became Sheogorath in body and mind, and thus the old Sheogorath stayed as Jiggalag, the Daedric Prince of Order, whilst the player assumed the form of Sheogorath. And so it's commonly thought that Sheogorath, that is to say the player from Oblivion, still has the Grey Cowl in his possession, meaning that he is still the last Grey Fox. And we actually have some inkling of a confirmation that the Sheogorath seen in Skyrim is the protagonist from Oblivion. Sheogorath says to Pelagius the Mad in the Sheogorath related quest in Skyrim that, "You are the best septum that has ever ruled." Well, except for that Martin fellow, but he turned into a dragon god, and that's hardly sporting. You know, I was there for the whole sordid affair. Marvellous time. Butterflies, blood, a fox, a severed head. In Oblivion, we know that it was Martin Septim's sacrifice that ultimately ended the Oblivion Crisis, and that the player worked closely with Martin to bring the crisis to an end. And we also know that the player was actually with Martin in his last few moments of life before he turned into the aspect of a dragon to battle Mehrunes Dagon. So naturally the player would have held Martin in high esteem, like Sheogorath seemingly does here. Sheogorath also claims that he was there for the whole sordid affair, which is not typical of a Daedric prince, as they largely take little notice of the goings on in the more mortal realm. Thus, one could infer that the Daedric Prince is actually the player from Oblivion, who would have obviously been present at the Oblivion Crisis the entire time. In addition, the cryptic mention of butterflies, blood, a fox and a severed head could allude to events that took place in the time of Oblivion. These likely reference the beginning of the Shivering Isles quest, the Blood of Divine's main quest, the severed head of Matthew Bellamont's mother, and the Grey Fox of the Cyrodiil Thieves Guild questline. These comments, coupled with Sheogarth's remark that the Mad God is a title that is passed from me to myself every few thousand years, suggest that he may indeed be the last Grey Fox, as he is the last known owner of the Cowl of Nocturnal. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video and I hope you enjoyed. I've got lots of other cool lore videos on my channel which you can feel free to check out. Thanks again guys, and I'll see you.